The On the Diagonal Turnabout stamp is a really cool pattern. You can see here on the back, you get these really cool squares. Now I've pre-stamped a background so I can show you. So what's great is if you use a 6x6 card, you get your card to look like this. You could also go ahead and cut out these individual squares to use as focal points on your card, or you can cut an A2 size in the center and you have the diamond going outwards, but you don't get the entire diamond in the actual card. So you get some really different looks. Now, if you're new to turnabout stamps, I would suggest with this one in particular to try on copy paper first. This one here does require very exact placement, and I'm going to show you how to use that now. One last mention, this On the Diagonal Turnabout stamp is actually free if you purchase this month's entire release bundle. So this is the first time Concord and 9th is giving away really the full size turnabout stamp as a free reward. But since this release is a little bit bigger and a little bit more expensive, they are throwing in a really amazing value with this stamp set. I always like to do this on a piece of white cardstock first. So you get this transparency sheet, and in it, it says this side up. So you can't go wrong at this point. You're going to grab your stamp, and it is super important that your stamp side, so the textured side, is facing downwards. If it doesn't face downwards and you're trying up, you'll notice that you'll never be able to actually line it up. So that's convenient. You know you're doing it wrong if that's the case. Now, you have to stand up for this, and the reason why is getting a bird's eye view, your head right over the stamp, is going to allow for perfect placement. So you're going to try and place this as accurately as possible onto the transparency sheet. Then you can try stamping on some copy paper to make sure it worked, and you don't have any sort of wasted cardstock if it doesn't. So now that my stamp is sitting perfectly on top of the transparency sheet, I'm going to give you a small tip. Try and line up one of these really large stripes. That's actually going to be a lot easier than trying to center it by lining up these little triangles or these little pieces here. Next, I'm going to grab my stamping tool, and I'm going to use the Concord and 9th Turnabout jig. If you don't have one of these, you can actually cut out a 6x6 piece of paper and draw an X through the middle, and that will work too. But I do love this because it has the perforated lines, so I can see exactly what I'm doing. I prefer to line this up using the foam side of the MISTI because I find it easier to see on black than on white. I'm going to now grab my stamp that I've already centered, and I'm going to center this X that's printed on here with the X here. Once you have your X's lined up perfectly here, you're going to close the MISTI door, pick up the stamp, and you're going to remove this transparency sheet. I always tell people, if you find turnabout stamps to be a lot of work, then go ahead and stamp yourself 10 backgrounds right now. Everything's lined up and ready to go for you, and before you have to keep dragging the stamp set out, stamp yourself a whole bunch of backgrounds, and you can use them when you need them. Now grabbing a background that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to add some removable adhesive to the back of it. This is going to help keep this on place. And what's great about the jig is that it has perforated lines, so you're able to line up your paper exactly where you need it. And then you can start stamping. Now it's time to choose 4 colors that you want to use for the turnabout if you want to stamp it all 4 times. So I'm going to start off here using some Dove ink. Then when I lift up my background here, it's all finished. I'm going to give it a turn, hence the word turnabout. Now it says number 2 here at the top, and continue with my next color. Be sure to wipe off your stamp between colors. Then you're going to grab number 2 and you're going to repeat all the steps. So simply stamp, clean, rotate, new ink. So now I'm taking it off the background and it's all finished. So I did want to show you that you can get the different looks. So you could get the 6x6 look, as I said, you could cut out the squares. You could do this look, you can cut off the rectangles, and you'll notice that mine is also slightly off center. So you can still use this. Nothing's overlapping anything. It doesn't look that bad, but to a trained eye, you'll obviously notice that there is a little bit of a thicker white line, and that's letting you know that you didn't have everything lined up super perfectly, but I think both of them are pretty in their own way. And of course, if you don't actually stamp them perfectly, you could go ahead and cut these down and use them for elements on your card, or you can die cut on them and use them for elements on your card.